to give his presentation. Thank you, Liviu.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you.
Today I'm going to talk to you about a subject that was not so well defined in the abstract, and I want to thank Graham for giving me the opportunity to present it and having the faith that I will somehow come up with a coherent presentation. Hopefully I will manage to do that. And I want to talk to you about this toy concept called democracy, in which I'm trying to marry the AI with democratic values. And what I'm going to talk to you about is mainly, my presentation will have two parts. The first of all, I will do a short recap about my recent research on how I try to understand AI, artificial intelligence, and then I will make a proposal on how to have an impact on the way the algorithms are affecting our lives from a civic perspective. Most of my time I had to do with artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms from the perspective of a digital archivist. I'm working in Cluj-Napoca in Transylvania, in Romania, at the Folklore Archive of the Romanian Academy. And for the past 10 years, 15 years, I took care of the archive and on the process of digitization. So I try to come up with a solution on how to transfer and to keep for the long-term songs and stories from Transylvania from the mid 20th century to the end of 20th century. And on my recent research, I came up with this quote that was quite shocking for me to see it from an historian from 1968. Leroy Larouille is a well-known French historian, and back then he said that the historian of the future will be a programmer or won't be at all. And starting from his quote, I had a presentation 2 years ago in Bucharest about the way the archives can be used as a source of data for machine learning algorithms. And back then, while researching, my sensation was that most of the time what the machine learning algorithms are doing is just to recreate what's already there. And there is a very nice example that I found, this website called Lyrebird AI, in which you could simulate the voice of Donald Trump or Barack Obama, and if you input some text, they will say whatever you wanted to say. So it was some sort of not so deep fake, because it was quite obvious. It was shallow fake machine algorithms. After a year, last year, I've been to Tbilisi in Georgia, and also I gave a presentation, but a year later, my thoughts about AI managed to be a bit more focused, and I realized that we can talk about machine learning algorithms as some sort of parrots. But as in Romania, we have a lot of archives from former communist political system. Those archives are quite dark. They have data about different ways of intrusion in private lives, and how the population was surveyed by the police state. And not only that, but there are evidence that the former political communist system was forcing a very particular view of how things were happening, and not only for the people that were living under that system, but also for the future. So they had this intention of falsifying data from the start, not only in order to impose their power, but also to leave a different view of the history altogether. And if you want to apply machine learning algorithms on data that is falsified by a political system from the beginning, what you will end up doing is just repeating the same things without having a way of determining if they are true or not. So what I was thinking back then is that we should try to build algorithms that usually, especially in the case of dark archives and archives from this Eastern Europe part of the world, to build algorithms that are that if they are applied on historical archives, they don't trust the data that they are actually working on it. And this year, amazingly, I managed to arrive to London in January. It seems like a half-life ago. And there was a very good conference on archives, access, and IE. And I went further into the past to see how the idea of artificial intelligence and artificial life was evolving over the course of history in popular culture. And one of the starting point was this idea of the mechanical Turk. Perhaps many of you are familiar with the mechanical Turk and how it was actually presented as the first artificial intelligence that was able to play chess. And at the end of the 18th century, it was quite a superstar, and ended up playing chess with Benjamin Franklin and big historical figures of the time. But what was happening actually was that a human was playing chess, just pretending to be a machine. So I ended up going back a little bit and to see how in history different ways of pretending machines or algorithms to be human were applied. And I started from recent history when Google, but also Amazon and Apple were using humans to correct data and to return responses to their users while pretending to be actually bots or algorithms. And this is a problem that we can see way back into the history. And I think that it's somehow related and influenced by the image of the golem in Jewish mythology. And people were always trying to replicate life and movement and to create some sort of creatures that are at least half intelligent and that can have this sort of life. And I was very happy to see this somehow to correlate both of those images from Metropolis and Star Trek, and to see how the image of this machine and of the golem replicates from the beginning of the 20th century all the way back to the end of the 20th century in Star Trek and other movies. So this is the background from which I come, and this is the point from where I am trying to apply some sort of analyze of critique of what's happening with algorithms. And today I want to tell you that the trigger that actually started this whole idea about how we should influence the algorithms that have such major implications in our life came from the story of Waze that in 2019, just one of the programmers, they just changed the algorithm, and you could take a shortcut through the suburbs of LA to arrive earlier to your destination. So a lot of the people stuck in traffic on the highway, they just started running with their cars through silent and dormant neighborhoods. So they managed to do a mess just by doing a small change in the algorithm and on the way that the alternative routes were presented. And I think that this was done without thinking to the consequences of the action. So perhaps the programmer just had an idea and applied it, and he managed or she managed to do a total mess upon this part of the world. And the whole idea would be to find a way in which the algorithms and programmers could be influenced not only by the internal decisions of the IT companies, but also by regular people and to have this kind of civic influence on how they work, and at least to try to raise a little bit of awareness on how the algorithms are actually affecting our lives. It's not that the programmers don't have a civic consciousness, and it was the case of Google, who had their programmers revolting against doing code for drones that are used in wars. So it's not that the programmers don't have civic consciousness, but perhaps it should also come from outside of the IT companies. And of course, as we all know, technology is not an innocent tool. So having this type of idea that technology is good in itself, I think it's utopian at best. Or it can be some sort of image that comes from Silicon Valley and that aids the big companies in doing decisions without necessarily thinking deeply about the implications upon the world. And I was wondering if it will be possible to somehow have some input from the society in order to raise awareness and to have some ideas about how algorithms should function, and not to affect us so drastically and so suddenly. Of course, there are initiatives like OpenAI, but the problem is that those are initiatives that come from the top level. So the IT companies decided that they should have a saying on the way the general artificial intelligence will develop in the future, and they are somehow acknowledging the problem. But the way they are doing it is through their own lenses, and I think that a different input should also be presented as an alternative. Of course, they have some descriptions about their intentions on their website. But if you look closely, and if we take the case of GPT-3, the latest buzz algorithm, you will see that they actually don't have a way of deeply controlling what's really happening. I mean, if you have 175 billion parameters, and if the research was done by a group of 10, 15 people, it's very hard to truly say that what's happening inside the algorithms and how they function, it's really transparent, and it can be affected by and the decision on how it should work can be affected by a governing body that's totally detached from IT companies' intentions. So what kind of civic control is taking actually place at OpenAI? I was really curious to see how it works and what kind of suggestions they have. And actually, the OpenAI board, it's publicly available, of course. And as you can see, it's made out of the chairman and CTO, chief scientist, CEO, and some outside people. And there are actually 8 people in total that are controlling what's happening, and they are giving the main input on how the algorithms of OpenAI and other algorithms from different big IT companies should work. They also have a charter, which is quite quite short and easy to understand. And they are taking this self-assumed role of leading what's happening at the level of technical, to have this technical leadership. But not only that, they also affirm that they would like to have this cooperative orientation. But actually what cooperation means for this OpenAI board and through the charter they presented is actually to give some big directives on the way that the technology should evolve. So it's not getting feedback, but giving feedback to others. And how I understand the concept of democracy is to offer some sort of alternative charter And I think that we as regular concerned citizens, we should demand an alternative, and we should demand and we should offer a charter that could shouldn't cut from the imagination of the programmers and of the big companies on the way they are doing, but to offer valuable input and to offer alternatives and to come with our own concern and to make them visible and heard by them. And the concept that I would like to propose is to create these mini agoras all over the world in groups of dozens. And those agoras, in my opinion, should be made out from, again, concerned citizens, but also people from academia like historians, political scientists, philosophers, anthropologists, civic society representatives, biologists perhaps, and nonetheless artists and programmers. And those mini agoras should come up with bottom-up solutions as an alternative to the solutions offered, for example, by OpenAI. And a very sketchy workflow would be to apply the principle of agile software development as having a short projects that are developed over a very short period of time. So instead of having a research project that perhaps it's taking 2 or 3 years to implement, to have this very short period of times, and an agora should be like a temporary discussion zone that should take only like 12 weeks, and it should gather like a dozen of people, and that should assume the role of participant for this 3 months period. One of them should be, of course, a coordinator and to take this decision of organizing and taking care of the logistics of finding a space, a physical space, or I don't know if it will be possible in the short future, but to at least prepare the conditions to meet up with the others and to video record the discussion and to take care of the technical particularities. And I think that each meeting shouldn't last for more than 2 hours every week. And in the first hour, a participant should present an idea or a problem or come up with a solution related to machine learning and artificial intelligence and to present it from a personal point of view. And on the second hour to be dedicated to a semi-structured discussion in which the topic presented would be debated by the rest of the participants. So the aim will be to obtain a series of principles, like perhaps to come up with very short nuggets of debated ideas and solutions, and to create small manifestos that are related to artificial intelligence, and at the end of each agora to somehow list them on a document, and to have many small agoras all over the world, and to come up with a lot of manifestos and with a lot of ideas that could be presented later, or that could be found there by different programmers or computer engineers, and that could perhaps inspire them to pay more attention on the way they are using the algorithms. So I think that this will be a solution to create some grassroots input on different AI challenges, not from a technical perspective, but more from a civic and societal perspective, and to face, to raise awareness to different issues that perhaps people in IT companies are sometimes not aware of. So this is my presentation. I hope I didn't went too much over the time allocated, and thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Over to you, Terry.
Unmute, Terry.
I'm just going to add, Liviu, I'm very, very glad that we had you come along today for your talk. It was fascinating. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was.